We can please
Yeah.
proceed.
Proceeding on. So this is our agenda. Okay. So what we are going to look inside the Azure as of now in the demo session. So what is the difference between the traditional data center and the cloud data center? What is cloud computing? What is cloud service providers? What is Microsoft Azure? And yeah, good. Okay. So workflow to career opportunity in cloud. Okay. So roadmap to Azure certifications. Okay. So these are the primary things which right now we're going to discuss in agenda. Okay. So probably I have to know why we are going to learn Azure. Okay. So what are the benefits? How we are going to make our career in the Azure. Okay. So this is the most important. So let me walk through inside this. Okay. So what we see in the traditional data center, okay. So I think so everyone has know about the traditional data center, right? So we have a servers, we have a network hardwares, routers, switches, yeah, etc., etc. It's going on. So how how it looks like a traditional data center? Have anyone been worked or may not worked? Okay. So let me explain you the traditional data center. Okay. So traditional data center is built according to the size per the industry. Okay. So when you see your industry looks okay, for example, I have built an application. Okay. So this application requires some physical hardware. Okay. Networks, router. So in that, the particular customer is going to use the application. So how I'm going to build that data center? Okay. That's how I build the physical data center with architecture, everything on. Okay. So what we mainly look on this, we can see the size of industry, physical servers, hardware, and application. Okay. So what we see in the cloud data center. So cloud data center is moreover the application, the online, right? So you're not going to build up any physical server, and you're not going to do the hardware settings. You're not going to keep the networks in. Okay, so nothing. You're not going to do anything. It's everything is in the virtual. Everything is in the online. Okay, so whatever you have built the application, whatever you have designed your code for application, you're just going to drop in the data center. Okay, which is the cloud data center. So cloud data center is already has been built. Okay, so they are managing the cloud service providers. Okay, so I will come to the next thing, what is cloud service providers. So right now the cloud data center has been built by the some of the major uh, top cloud service providers called as Amazon, yeah, Google, and Microsoft. They have built the cloud data center. So they are saying what you want. Okay, so what you want, pay for that and use it. Okay, nothing else. Okay, so for example, I want to build a web server. Okay, so if I go for the traditional data center, I have to go, I have to set up a rack of servers, I have to set up a networking, I have to set up a virtualization, I have to create VMs, I have to do a lot of physical things going on. Okay, so when it comes to the cloud data center, the data center is giving me. Okay, so here is there everything. Okay, so what you want for your application, just take those services from the application and use it. Okay, and build your application, that's it. Okay, so what is similar in the both? So what is similar? So similar is data, right? So when I build my physical servers application, what I'm going to save, I'm going to store the data, right? So when I'm going to keep in the cloud data center, what I'm going to keep data, right? So in application, what we get it, it's the data. So both the side similar is both. So there is a more benefit in the cloud data center. So I'm not going, so for example, if I take a traditional data center for physical server, so at some point it gets outdated, right? So again I have to sell it, again I have to buy a new one, I have to again do all that stuff, I have to take the backup. So there are a lot of physical work into it. I think cloud data center is nothing like that, right? So everything is going to manage with this top cloud service providers like Amazon, Azure, right? They're going to just take care of that. So what we want, we're just going to use that, the services, and we're just going to pay for that. Okay, so let's moving on to the cloud computing. Okay, so what is cloud computing? Cloud computing is a service rather than a product. Okay, so yeah, let me define you. So cloud computing, so you can see there are multiple service out there like database, app server, code, and virtual machines, okay, Docker, everything, lot of services out there, Event Hub, IoT, machine learning, lot of services which is built by the cloud computing and which is given by the cloud service providers like Azure, AWS. Okay, so we are just going to use that through our desktop, to our tablet, through our mobile. Okay, so we're just going to use those services. Okay, for example, okay, like I have to build a VM. Okay, so I have to build a VM with a high availability. So what service I'm going to use it? So I'm going to use a service which is a virtual machine. Okay, so if I want to create a web server, what I'm going to use that, I'm going to use a service called as app server. So So there are many services out there in the Azure. Okay, so but I'm not going to implement in everything, right? So what it requires, I'm just going to implement that one, and I'm just going to pay for that particular resources, not for all the resources, not for all the services I'm going to use it, right? So if I'm going to take something stored in the database, I'm just going to use the database, I'm just going to build the database, and I'm just going to set up all those stuff. Okay, that's how it works. So who are the cloud service providers? Okay, who are the top cloud providers here? So you can see the Google Cloud Platform, Azure, Alibaba, IBM, VMware, Amazon Web Service. Okay, so who started first? Amazon Web Service, right? So the first started the cloud service providers is Amazon Web Service, and to the next is Azure, and the next is Google Cloud. Alibaba comes next to next, right? So AWS is started early on, right? So they started with the thing called as infrastructure as services. Okay, so they started with infrastructure services like virtual machines, networks, storage. They started with like this. So then followed up with Azure. Azure also started putting their money on the infrastructure and the building the data center, which already they have a traditional data center, so which they are making through the hypervisor. Okay, so this new words like hypervisor, virtualization, if you have heard before and you have been worked before, it's great. If you're not worked, if you're not known about this particular words, I will explain you in the next session. Okay, while we going to learn in the online classes. Okay, what is hypervisor, what is a virtualization. So right now you can understand what is cloud computing. So cloud computing is nothing, is a service, okay, which I want, I'm going to use that. Okay, so like any type of service like virtual machine or storage or database, these are all kind of services. So I'm just going to implement. So when I'm creating a virtual machine, I know that it exactly creates from the somewhere in the physical server it's going to create. So I can choose that particular location, okay, but I doesn't know where it creates exactly. So that's going to manage by these guys, Azure, AWS, IBM Cloud. Okay, these all cloud providers is going to take care of those things. Okay, so moving. So what is Microsoft Azure? So Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing platform created by Microsoft, which developers and IT professionals use to build, deploy, and manage the application through the global network of data centers. Okay, yeah. Let me make you understand more clearly. Okay, so you can see this cloud services, the diagram, right? On-premise infrastructure services, platform, software as services. Okay, so you can see this. Green and the blue, right? So in on-premise, I have to manage everything. Starts from my networking, storage, servers, virtualization, OS, middleware, runtime, data application. Everything I have to manage. When it comes to the infrastructure services, okay. So the main major thing which is going to handle physical things like networking, storage, servers, virtualization, which is already going to manage by the vendor. Who is the vendor? Like Microsoft, Amazon, those are the vendors. Okay, they're just going to take care of that. So what I have to do, I just going to select my OS, what OS I require, what VM I require, what size of VM, what kind of CPU, what kind of RAM. So that I'm going to design my VM according to that, what availability requires, that I'm going to deploy the application inside. So that is called infrastructure services. So what is now platform as services? So you can see most of the things are in the green, right? So only the left out is data and the application. So most of the things which is going to manage with the Microsoft. So what we are going to do here is whatever the code I have, okay, I'm just pouring out the code into the Azure and it just makes an application, okay. So nothing, I'm not going to build the VMs also here. So VMs also going to take care by the Microsoft Azure. So software services, like example I can give Office 365. So you're not going to deploy anything, the VMs, or you inside the VMs, you're not doing anything, right? So already there is an application. We're just using that application. Okay. So for infrastructure services, the example is virtual machine is the example. Okay. So platform as services, there are like web apps, app services. These are the platform as services service we have where we can just go and use it. Okay. So if I have a code of Python or Java or .NET, whatever the code, okay, I'm just going to implement that in the platform as services. So it's going to deploy and get me the application. So I'm just going to use the application. I'm not going to manage my VMs even though. Okay. So this is Azure. So Azure is a completely cloud computing platform which is created by Microsoft, is used to build, deploy, and manage the application. Okay, so build is you're building your VM, you're building your infrastructure, and you're deploying your application and you're managing your application, right? So what you want code, what you want to do, some things changes, you're going to do that, you're going to deploy that, and you're going to manage your overall application. Okay. So moving towards the next slide. So there is a workflow map. Okay, so if I go for the previous agenda, you can see here workflow to career opportunity in the cloud. Okay, so back to that particular slide. Okay, so a lot of people will be thinking, okay, so if I want to get into the cloud, how I have to get in? Okay, so what is the ways or to get into the cloud? Okay, so for example, some guys will be more on the technical experience, some guys will be the freshers. Okay, so there will be a lot of confusion will be going on whether there is a hiring or whether there's an opportunity or how I have to get in the cloud, how I have to learn, how I have to do the things. Okay, so the lot of confusion will be there. So let me put it full stop for that. Okay, so you can see the technical experience and the fresher, right? So technical experience is nothing but you have some IT experience, right? So it may be you have been worked as a Windows guy, or you worked as a Linux guy, or you have worked as database guy, some other storage guy. Okay, so some backup. So any kind of technical experience you have. Okay, so you know the IT workflow, how it works. Okay, so that's your advantage. Okay, so when it comes to the side by fresher, so fresher doesn't have any knowledge on that, right? So when he wants to start the Azure cloud, so he has to have some knowledge on Linux, Windows, as well as it's necessary both. Okay, so nowadays they have to have both the knowledge, so it's easy to learn the cloud. And when they're going for any interviews or when they're going to for face for anything, okay, so it's very easy to understand the things how they are going to interview a guy. Okay, so for example, the fresher guy comes to me and I'm just going to ask in the cloud. Okay, so I'm not going to ask only in the cloud, right? So in my company, so there are multiple things are going on, multiple things are flowing on, right? So we are working on the Linux, we are working on the Windows, we are working on some other technology, as well as we are working as well as in the cloud. Okay, so I'm not looking only for the cloud guy. Okay, I'm looking for a multiple technology who knows and who can manage and who can work on that, right? So it's not going to work if you have only the cloud experience. Okay, so you have to learn some other technology if you want to grow in the IT. Okay, so you can see side by side, right? So technical experience, cloud engineer. So if you've been a cloud engineer, right, so what you have some experience on the cloud, so how the infrastructure is built, how we can create, you have a major things you comes to know. Okay, so how we can design the cloud infrastructure and how we manage, how we administrate, so everything you comes to know. Okay, so when it comes to the fresher Linux, it's a new experience, but still you have a lot of things to know and a lot of things to understand. Okay, you can easily get through that. Okay, so once I became a cloud engineer, once I get a lot experience like 2 years or 3 years, what I have to do the next? So the next is more on the DevOps. So what is DevOps? DevOps is something like development plus operation, right? The developer operation. Okay, so it's a mix of automate. So once you learn the cloud, so cloud, it's a, okay, it's a one part. Okay, so you're going to do a lot of automate inside the cloud, so you have to learn the DevOps. Okay, so DevOps is mostly over the automation. Like you can see a lot of tools comes inside Jenkins, Git, Maven, a lot of tools out there. So you have to know the tools, you have to learn the script on that. Okay, so you are not going to become a developer. Okay, so you're just going to learn the scripts and you have to execute a job. Okay, or you're executing some scheduled things. Okay, which is going to happen, manual things you're just going to make as an automate. Okay, so for example, okay, I have VMs. Okay, so I have hundreds of VMs or running in my cloud. Okay, so these hundreds of VMs has to shut down every weekend. Okay, so I cannot do manual things, right? So I have to build some script for that, I have to run the script for that, I have to build some run books on that. So that everything comes in the experience of the DevOps. Okay, so when you're running some, you're learning some automation, when you're doing through the script, it works heavy for you. Okay, so cloud is nothing but it's a, that's what it comes again back to the same question, what is cloud computing? So if you understood the cloud computing, that's the same thing, cloud. Okay, so if you learn Azure, if you learn AWS, it's the same platform, same services are available over there. Okay, so you just, when you learning the Azure, you can, same you can work in the AWS as well as. Okay, it's not much difference is there. Okay, it's the same platform. So just what is the difference, I will explain in the next session, like what is difference between the AWS and Azure. So AWS is more over on the Linux platform, so the hypervisor is quite different. So which Azure is using the Hyper-V hypervisor, and they are working on the particular data centers, and they have a multiple regions. All the things will be coming next sessions and all, right? Okay, so here after the cloud DevOps engineer, okay, so you can become a cloud architecture. Okay, so you know how to implement a infrastructure, how to build an infrastructure with redundancy, yeah, with the high availability, the latency. Okay, so a lot of things comes inside as a cloud architecture guy. Okay, so these things which you develop later on cloud architecture, when you became as an architect, maybe a merely of 5 years you became. So then afterwards you can start being an expertise in some particular part. Okay, it may be you can be a data scientist, you can be a data engineer, or let it be MI or AI. So you can be expertise on the particular thing. Okay, so like how we have to expertise on the particular thing. Okay, so this is the workflow for that. Okay, so if you are a technical experience guy, so you have to be a cloud engineer, you have to learn the Azure. Okay, so if you're technical, okay, what technical experience you have, you may be a database guy, right? So you have a database, you have to add up some other technology inside you. Okay, so you have to learn by your own everything. It's not going to work, right? So whichever you feel like, okay, I have to give some time to this particular technology, I have to learn that, which is booming right now, right? So which you can say like Linux is the most infrastructure is going to used on. Okay, so because why the Linux is being booming, because all the open source tools can be implemented over there and it can be tested over there. Okay, which Windows cannot do. So Windows is moreover is used for a SQL purpose database, yeah, so that kind of thing. Okay, so if you are not expertise on the Linux, let go and learn Linux. Okay, what are the commands? Okay, so with the Linux you can learn some bash shell scripts, Python scripts, even JavaScripts. Okay, everything you can learn it. Okay, so once you learn, okay, you have a knowledge of a cloud, what how Azure works, how the infrastructure is deployed, so how the application is deployed. So you know the three kinds of things as a cloud deployment models like IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, which is called as infrastructure services, platform as services, software services, right? So once you have been expertise on the cloud engineer, so once you know, okay, this is how it works. Okay, so then you became as a DevOps engineer. So DevOps is more over an automatic. So you learn scripts, whichever you implemented as a cloud engineer, whichever you know the scripts, you're going to build more on the scripts, the jobs like Jenkins or there or Git, MAM, and a lot of things tools are going on, right? So there's a Docker, there's a Kafka, there's a Elasticsearch, lot of technologies flowing through now. Okay, so now the moreover the thing which is going forward is all about the machine learning, AI, data, big data. So these three kinds of things which is surrounding over the next era. Okay, so if you see the next decade, this is going to happen. Okay, so if you have to reach out there, so you have to start working on this workflow map. Okay, so which I have created specially for you guys to look over this once and you let you understand where I'm getting fit in. Okay, so if I'm a technical experience, okay, I have to put some inside my things. Okay, yeah, no, I have okay, I'm not a experience like a 5 or 6 years guy. I have around 15 years experience. How can I jump in right now? Okay, so if you have a 15 years experience, okay, so you doesn't require to learn all the technical stuffs. You have to learn the knowledge of the particular things. So what is the knowledge? You doesn't need to work on the more on the practical. You have to learn more on the theory base. Okay, so if it implemented, how it works. Okay, how, like, for example, okay, let me get some example inside this. Now I'm saying to customer, okay, so I'm saying to customer like or customer is saying to me, okay, like they're saying to me like I have to build a VM for them. Okay, so they're just saying to me I have an application, I have a code. Okay, so I'm just having application. So this application has to be running without any down. Okay, so there should be no server down or maybe no technical errors or something like that. Okay, so for that I have to build a infrastructure. Okay, how I'm going to build the infrastructure? Okay, so if I want to build the infrastructure, I have to understand the each concepts, right? Each services. So what this virtual machine does? Okay, what is this scale set does? What is this auto scaling does? Oh, lot of things over there. Okay, what is storage does? Okay, so inside the storage, we know everyone knows the storage, everyone knows the database, but how it works inside the cloud? So that is a major thing which we have to learn. Okay, so if you are coming from the background of technical things, okay, I know the database, I have worked in traditional database, I know the backup, I have worked in NAS, I know the virtualization, I have worked in the VMware. So it's very easy to learn the cloud. Cloud is not a big deal, right? So it's very easy, okay, so you can learn very easy. So it doesn't require to much more complicated. So when you have like 20-15 years of experience, you doesn't require to learn the practical things, okay, you can just go for the theory. So you just need to understand how it executes, okay, how it works, how can I build the things, okay, you just have to morely concentrate on the concepts, okay. So that works for them, okay. So when it comes like 5 years 6 years guy, you have to give a immediate result and you want to show the good results of your technical skills or everything. So you have to learn more technologies. It's not going to work with one technology, okay. So you have to learn more technology. So when you jump from one company to one company, they look over your technical skills, okay, what skill you have. If you say I have only the cloud skill, it's not going to happen, man. I'm having a lot of things here, a lot of things are going on. So you have to learn a lot of things whether you're ready for it, okay. So if you're ready for it, you already been have learned some of the technologies, some of the tools, right? So you'll be aware of that, okay. If you doesn't know anything, you just been a cloud guy, okay, it's not going to work, okay, it's not going to work for a longer period, right? So if you want to learn so many things, you have to follow this workflow, which is going to very useful for you guys to learn and to know how you can make it career, right? So even you may not interested in this particular map, okay, so you're looking for some other things, right? So you can let us know me, okay. So this is just for the thing which you want to get inside as a Linux, or let get inside a cloud engineer, and how to build with a cloud engineer as an architect guy. And after that you want to become a specialist in machine learning, yeah, whatever it is, maybe so big data, whatever you can do, okay. So that's a different thing, okay. So no, you say I don't know, I don't want to do this, I have another idea. So you can come up with me the idea, okay. So you want to say, okay, this is how I want to. So I will give you a different perspective on that, okay. So I will show you like, okay, this is not fit for you, so I will show you the another one which it's going to fit for you, because I doesn't know individually you guys, okay. So it's just a common workflow map which guys are getting inside the cloud engineer and how to build their careers, okay. So yeah, moving to the next slide. So now certification, yeah. So right now we are more on the Azure certification. So what associate certification is a AZ 104, and expert certification like Devops engineer, right? And you want to be a expertise, you can be an architect, okay. You can do the papers of AZ 303, 304. So I have given here links, okay. So you can go over the link and you can learn. So I'm just going to cover the same particular one, okay. Let me show you. So these are things, okay. Learn securities and governance, implement, storage, deploy, okay. So you can download this. These are the same topics which I'm going to cover in the sessions, okay. Yeah. Okay. So you can go through all these links one by one and you can know what are the topics you're covering. So let's come to the thing now. I think so everyone understood what is cloud computing, right? Uh, what is Microsoft Azure, right? So when we move on to the next classes, we'll see how we learn about the services, right? Okay. So anyone has a question regarding this cloud computing or Azure? Anyone? Feel free to ask. If you don't understand something on this, yeah, so you can let me know. Yeah, Wasim, I don't understand this part. Okay, I can explain you again. I can go. Yeah. So I don't understand what is the computing, cloud computing. So how does it work? I can explain you again. Okay. So let me know.
Hello, can you explain
Hello.
briefly infrastructure as a services and platform as a services
Oh, okay.
and software as a services, please?
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So you can see this on-premise infrastructure services, platform as software services, right? So in on-premise, I have to take care everything. Okay, so I have to take care my networks, my physical hardware, my rack of servers, storage, virtualization, OS, middleware, runtime, and my data and my application. On-premise, I have to handle each and everything, right? So when it comes to the infrastructure services, I'm just going to go with the operating system, middleware, runtime, data, and the application. I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to worry about this virtualization. I'm not going to worry about the servers. I'm not going to worry about the storage networking, because all this physical will be taken care by the vendor managers. Who is our vendor manager? Is a Microsoft, right? Or it may be Amazon. So these are the guys who is going to take care of our physical host. Okay, so here we are just going to create our own virtual servers, create our own virtual storage, create our own virtual networks, and we're going to deploy over our application data, what kind of everything. Yeah, so this I'm going to give an example of VM. Okay, VM is example of infrastructure services, because I'm going to create a virtual VM, so which I have to select my core and my RAM and my GPU, okay, and my performance of my VM, okay, everything comes inside, okay. So I have to monitor, I have to do a lot of things inside, okay. So I have to do some high availability, everything comes as an example of infrastructure services. So when it comes to the platform as services, I have to care for only the data and application. So there is already a platform as services, which is service called as app service, web apps. Okay. So these are the service which is already there. Okay. So I just have to go, I have to carry my code. It may be a Java or .NET code. I just have to drop inside that particular service called as app service. Once I drop the code, so it becomes as an application. Okay, so everything whatever you see in the green, right, so it's going to manage by the Microsoft. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to use my application, that's it. I'm not going to worry about the even the virtual server, even the virtual network, nothing. I'm just going to worry. So I'm just going to use my application, right? So here, example of software service, everything is going to manage by the vendor. Okay, so vendor is nothing but it's Microsoft. So what kind of example here? I'm just going to use the application. It's the example of Office 365. Okay, so I'm just going to use the Office 365. Okay, Salesforce. This is all the application. Okay, I'm not going to build for the servers for that particular application. I'm not going to, yeah, I'm not going to do anything. So it's already been done everything. So this is application which I'm going to use it. Understood?
Clear, sir. And one more thing, what about this infrastructure as a services? What about the virtualization part? Whether it is in if you are choosing the Microsoft Azure services, whether it is in Hyper-V or in vSphere from the VMware, which
Yeah, I
one?
told you, right? It's in Hyper-V. Hyper-V. It's a Microsoft product, right?
That, because
Hyper.
the vSphere is not using over there, right?
No, not vSphere. vSphere is a VMware product, right?
So the
Okay.
VMware products are not using in this Azure platform, right?
No, not in Azure platform. Okay. So
If I
whatever, yeah, yeah,
okay,
come
sir,
on.
please continue.
Yeah, okay. So for example, you say like, okay, I have a vSphere VM, so virtual machine VMs through a vSphere host. Okay. So I want to migrate those VMs. You can migrate those VMs as well as, okay. So now still the Azure is still bringing up the vCloud inside the Microsoft Azure as well as vCloud in the AWS. Okay. So still they have not built. So virtual vCloud is for only for vSphere. So here whatever we use from the physical host, okay. So we create a virtual machines that Hyper-V. Okay, so it's a hypervisor of Hyper-V. So where you can see the AWS. Ask what is the AWS hypervisor? AWS hypervisor is a Zen server. Okay, so which is a Citrix product, right?
Suppose if I'm using my server 2019 server, 2016 server,
Mhm.
using in my data center,
Okay.
I want to migrate. I want to migrate my physical machine to the cloud.
Yeah.
What will be the easiest way to migrate from the physical data center to the cloud data center like Azure?
So there are multiple ways of it to do it. Okay. So there are question comes up. You say in the data center, right? So you want to migrate only data. Okay. So not the whole VM. Okay. So if you want to migrate only the particular data, any data which you want to do it, that is another way is there. Okay. Or else you want to migrate the whole VM. Okay. So there is another tool is there from the Azure, which we get it, which we have to download it, which we have to install in the on-premise. Then we build a connector between the on-premise to the Azure. Okay, so then we can do this migration part for it.
And this we can work it. And if I have around 3 VM virtual machines, one
Mm-hmm.
2 VM I can, whether I can move to the Azure, and one still I can work on my local data center. That is possible.
Yeah, possible. No. possible. Clear? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry, my voice is disconnected.
Yeah.
Okay,
You,
thank
you
you
got,
very much, sir. Thank you
yes, got your
very much for your explanation.
yeah. Okay.
And
So
one more question: whether I can move my Linux machine from my local data center to the Azure? That is possible.
see here everything is possible, okay, so but there are a lot of ways to do it, okay, so there are a lot of process to do it, okay, so even you can migrate your Linux VMs over here, okay, even you can migrate your Windows VM over here, so but first I need to understand what traditional data center you're using, what the data center, like what hypervisor you're using over there. So because here I'm using the Hyper-V in the cloud, okay, so if you're using the Hyper-V, it's having another process to do it. No, I'm using some vSphere kind of thing, okay, I'm using some Citrix Zen server, so there is another way of doing it, okay, so or else there are a lot of, if you want just to export the particular data, okay, there are some jobs of it to export and import the job data, okay, so which we're going to learn in the moving on classes with the topics, okay, so yeah, so yeah, for your question it's yes, yeah, we can do it, we can migrate the Linux VMs to the Microsoft, yeah, so it's possible. So if you going to ask me like years, 3 years, 4 years back, so there is no way for doing this, okay, so now they have bring up with a lot of things inside, okay, a lot of computing has done, okay, so there are a lot of services came inside to connect between that particular hypervisors, okay, so they do that, yeah, got your answer.
So briefly, this will support all kind of hypervisor like Hyper-V and
Yeah, yeah,
vSphere,
yeah.
and all the kind of hypervisor will support on this cloud, right?
Correct, correct. Yeah, it supports. So
And
if you want to build your own hypervisor in the cloud, you can do that. Got it? So if you want to build
that's I want to
something,
ask. Suppose listen, because I need to build up my own hypervisor.
uh,
So
uh,
virtualization part owners, I want to do it my side,
mm,
my
mm.
side. That is possible because OS after the virtual hypervisor, I will make my different virtual machines like Windows, Linux, something like that. So I
Right.
have the
Mm.
I can select which hypervisor I can select, whether it is VM or whether it is Hyper-V, something like that.
Yeah, got it. So the thing is, you cannot buy the particular hypervisor. Okay, I cannot say that this physical host wants for me. Okay, so I cannot do that. But the thing, what you can do is, for example, I want to build a hypervisor. It's still build a hypervisor inside the Azure data center. Okay, it's not going to give you the servers like physical servers that you can manage it. You cannot ever manage the physical server, but still you can build your own hypervisor and you can start creating the VM, whatever you want to do, you can do that. Got it? But everything works inside the Microsoft
Okay.
data center.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wasim. Thank you. Thank you very
You
much
got
for
my,
your
you
clarification.
got my question,
Yes,
right?
I
So
got
you
it.
got,
Thank you.
yeah, you
Thank you.
got. So the thing is, what I'm coming to, yeah, make you understand is, okay. So when I want to create my own vSphere inside the Azure, the data centers which is already by the Microsoft, okay, which is already running by the Hyper-V. So still I can do some hypervisor connectivity between my vSphere hypervisor. So still I can build there are some particular servers which is running in the vSphere, so I can create the vSphere and I can still create the VMs. I can do that. Okay, so it becomes the own cloud of that. Okay, it becomes the V cloud. So it's like a vSphere cloud for that. Okay, so it will be not overly will be a Microsoft cloud. It will be having a private cloud. Okay, so that is the thing. So I have not explained you much more on the different types of clouds like private, public, hybrid. Okay, so moving
Yes,
on the session. Yeah,
exactly this point I am asking, the difference
yeah.
of the
So
private, public,
yeah.
and the hybrid cloud.
Correct. So what is hybrid is moreover on the mixture of both public and the private. Okay. So
Yes,
for
yes.
example, I have Windows Server in data center. Okay. So I have in the cloud. Okay. So this all the Windows Server I have Active Directory. I have a users of 100 of users are there in my traditional data center. So I want to move the traditional users to the cloud. So I can do something. I can do synchronization, right? So I can that is something called as hybrid. Okay, mixture of both. So it's my traditional data center. It's a, my private cloud, data center. Okay, so but cloud. So even I can connect it, I can synchronize those things. Okay. So when it comes to the public cloud, so for example, public cloud is nothing but you creating some VMs in East US. I am creating some VMs in East US, right? So, but both are using the same data center, right? But you cannot see my VMs. I cannot see your VMs. But completely overall, it's in the public platform, right? That's the thing, public cloud. Okay. So
Okay.
private cloud is nothing but, like, as I said, if you want to build your own virtualization and which you want to keep your own VM servers, that is a private cloud. So what you asked me the question, right? That give the answer, private cloud. Okay.